Hey everybody, happy Friday. This is Overpass Live. I'm Eric. I make apps. Oh, and I'm late. I'm late because there's been a little bit of upheaval since last week. So like you might notice I'm missing a monitor from when I normally do the live streams. And then also some power strips because I've someone's staying with me. So a lot of this stuff is, oh, you use my monitor, it's fine. And then like right before the live stream I realized, oh, I'm not set up. So I've been running around trying to get all that. So I apologize about being late. I really try to be a stickler for time and not to start this thing late. And that's why we schedule it. So thanks for the patience for everybody. And we were going to go with the, and it was getting the camera and everything set up. So first of all, let me know if you guys can hear me okay. Let's see. So this is the weekly live stream where we just chat. We talk about whatever we want to talk about. And it's been a busy week. It's been a really busy week for me work-wise. I've done no Christmas shopping. So like every I'm the worst when it comes to Christmas shopping. So I always like put it off to the last minute, like one big go to the mall and just buy everything at one time. But because of COVID, I should have been thinking further ahead. And now there's that extra little bit of stress that's coming on, which I have to do, and sending Christmas cards, which I'm not really you know what? Maybe I'm just getting old. I'm getting old where like I'm not really a Christmas card guy, but like a lot of people have been contacting me saying, what's your address? I want to send you a Christmas card, which means I got to send them a Christmas card. So it's kind of a thing. So anyway, thanks everybody for joining. Thanks for your, Mega Man is first. Thanks for being here. Well, I hope Derek Dooley shows up again today. Let's see. We got, the last time I came, I had to apologize. I'm so sorry. Fist 007. What's up, Eric? What's up, Fist 007? Hope you're doing well and had a fantastic week. It was a good week. I mean, it was just, it's nice. It's kind of nice that easing into Christmas, like things kind of slow down a little bit and you kind of feel like, things are just going really well. So that's cool. Let's see. I suggest, I have a subject for today's live, if you agree. Sure. What is it? Let's talk about software architecture. What are the pros and cons, and what are the best practices, and what to avoid from a software architecture point of view? Software architecture is, for example, how to manage app communication, data flow, data storage, reporting, and so on and so forth. For a change to the bit of a usual talk. Okay, yeah, cool. Yeah, let's do that. Let's talk about software architecture because that's one of the things that I guess it's easy to overlook. To me, it always seems like something that's, if you don't have an idea for the architecture of your software application, where's the database going to go, what's the API going to look like, how's the application going to communicate with it, how are you going to handle the changes in the data structure for future versions, stuff like that. It is something that it's easy to gloss over, because you can just, that's usually how I start everything. I'll usually start everything with a diagram, with a wireframe or a diagram. But yeah, we'll go through to that. So now that I'm finally here, Zero Supremacy, happy Friday, happy Friday. Manoj, where are you, sir? Sorry about that. I was scrambling around. My son was helping me, scrambling around, getting the camera, everything set up. I was like, where did the USB go? You guys can hear me, right? Just make sure you guys can hear me loud and clear. Awesome. So he's putting his belt together. I'm wearing a different belt, and I guess I've lost a bit of weight because I bought this new belt and it doesn't fit. I'm on the last hole in the good way. I'm on the last hole in the good way, and so. He likes having his belt hanging loose. Not today, Fist 007. Gregor, happy Friday, Gregor. Shugo Walker, Eric's. Sorry, on a flight to Montreal, we'll miss class this week. Well, I hope you have a note. I want a doctor's note. Is that YOP or is that a stand for something? Hi, hey Van Helsing, how's it going? Loud and clear, cool. Robert T's here. Hey, what's up, everybody? Manoj, I'm new in the Android world to get new challenges from fragments, threads, notifications, permissions. And I got new challenges in the form of fragments, threads, notifications, and permissions. That's like several things. And like threading can be something that's really difficult, especially getting into it. And it's something that like a lot of the frameworks that you can use, they kind of abstract that away from you. So if you're using something like Xamarin, I mean, you can still use threading, and you have like the functions to run on the main thread, because a lot of times you'll have something running in a thread which doesn't update a UI and stuff like that. But that could be. Van Helsing says, Eric, I just want you to know if you're coding those apps that you created these days, or you just delegate them and outsource them. Do you focus more on sales and marketing? So that was a whole plan, Van Helsing, was I was supposed to like hand over code to other people so I could focus on sales and marketing. And that was working really well until it got to the point where, some of the people that I handed over to, just weren't delivering, or they weren't doing, it was getting to the point where I had to jump in and start doing the coding. So like a lot of this year has been a strange year where everything has changed. I mean, not just in terms of like, I don't know, we got all these major things this year. We got the pandemic, we got Brexit, we got all kinds of stuff all in the air. Who knows what's going to happen? But like for myself, it got to the point where I started taking on some more work where I was just coding it myself, just because, it's sometimes it could be amazing something you get done within, 2 hours, which would take somebody like 3 days to do. And it's not because they're bad. It's just like the communication lines or whatever, or it's not they're bad, it's their inexperience. So I've been doing a lot of that myself, but yeah, that is the way it's supposed to work. And so we're looking at ways of going. I'm either at the moment, I've told my team several times this. I've told them this throughout the years. Okay, that's it. No more client work. We're not doing any more client work. We're going to focus on our own stuff and do that. And I still kind of do that. But occasionally we'll take on client work from time to time. I do, Van Helsing, I do the code myself a lot of the time. But if I can outsource it, I will outsource it. That's always the plan. And sometimes I get stuck. So I have this one project where I got in a situation where everything was being outsourced. They said the price was a bit high. The client said the price was a bit high. So I said, okay, well, it's outsourced anyway, so we'll just cut down my margin and everything like that. So it was really like a little bit of a margin above what the developers would do. But I think, well, as long as the developers handle it, everything will be fine. And of course, the developers couldn't handle it. Everything just fell apart. And then I was doing it. And my rate as a developer is a whole lot more than theirs are. So that was one of those situations where, I was going to say I'm not ashamed to say it, but no, I am ashamed to say it. I am ashamed to say that, yeah, there are times where even though the model should be I focus on sales and marketing, it's not that. It's me sitting here late at night just, sorting things out, hammering things out, or even that, or you'll have somebody come to you and, it could sometimes be lack of experience. Sometimes it could be lack of experience, but thinking they know everything. That's what bothers me. I don't mind lack of experience. We're all learning. We all get on somewhere, and we all learn as we go. There's things that I don't know, right? There's things that I think, how would that work? Yeah, how do I go into that? But when somebody says it's not possible to do that on Android, you're like, it is. No, it's not possible to do that on iOS. It is. Like, I just, I could Google it. I could show you how to do it, whatever. And when you get that kind of stuff, somebody says you matter-of-factly, and you know that it's true, and you have to prove to them that it's true. The scary thing is they're telling other clients that those kind of things matter of fact. So, let's see. Fist 07, did you dig another hole in my belt? No, I haven't. I didn't want to mess up the new belt. I wanted I was gonna use like a hole punch, but it didn't seem like. I know there's like proper tools and stuff. But yes. Morris Taylor said, oh crap, sorry Morris, sorry to hear about that, but I have enough money to last 2 years. Well, that's something. I can either try to learn iOS to freelance or try to fit 4 years of college into 2.0 years. Any suggestions? Or 20 years IT experience. The thing is, you could still fit 4 years into 2 years of college. I don't know if that. I mean, God, I don't. After 20 years experience, you shouldn't have to go back to college. I wouldn't think so. After 20 years IT experience, if that doesn't speak for itself, then I don't know what is. Like, Morris, what kind of IT experience do you have? Is it like, so you want to get into iOS development? What were you doing? What was it? Web? Was it development role? Was it infrastructure? Were you like a DBA? Because any of those I would think would be like really impressive on the CV. The CV is all about spin, right? What can you do as a developer, even as a new developer coming into the development world? You're coming into the development world where you have 20 years IT experience. You have so much more experience than somebody else does because, you know, even like, well, a lot of us developers, we know when we go from one language into another, we go into another language, which we may not be completely fluent in, right? Like I've gotten jobs in languages that I didn't know that well, and I was just sort of starting. I got a Silverlight job where all I'd really done was a few Hello Worlds in Silverlight, but I had a lot of, well, C# experience, which is kind of the thing. But I remember going, just knowing how the web works, knowing how HTTP works, knowing how communications work, knowing the failure, what can fail in a database, what could, a new developer coming into that, which is a few years experience, doesn't know about the importance of backups, doesn't know about the importance of error handling, doesn't know how networks can go down. I mean, developers, we like to say, what's the likelihood that will ever happen? But yeah, Morris, let me know, what is it? Because that sounds awful, but it sounds like because you could still do the freelance stuff. You could still do it. There's no grand poobah who, I mean, college, I mean, if you go back to college, yeah, I mean, they will give you a degree, but my degree was in history. My degree is in U.S. history my major's in history, my minor's in psychology. Yet somehow I was able to get myself in my first IT job and just climb from there because I worked harder and longer than anybody else. And, you obviously have it in you to learn this kind of stuff. But yeah, let me know, because that's definitely, I mean, that sucks. But if you have 2 years, I mean, yes, I mean, to me, I would think building your profile personally, I think building your portfolio would be better than going to get a 4-year degree within 2 years, because you should be paid more because you have more experience, but what does that actually get you, which you can't do on your own? Um, Let me know. Do you guys agree with that? Do you disagree with that? Rodian Sabbath says, "Hey Eric, Google has also Morris, talk about software architecture as somebody who's been in IT with 20 years IT experience. You know how architecture works. Maybe you've been doing like VBA, right? But you know how all those kind of things work. You know what database works. You know how, depending on what area you're in, you can feed all of that in there to where you're, you know, you have like a much more to offer than that. Like, so a lot of the stuff that I did on my CV um, so I did a lot of work in investment banks, and even though I didn't, sometimes I'd work on trading systems, but a lot of times I didn't. Sometimes I work in investment bank, I'm working on an HR system, or I'm working on something else for the risk department or something else. But like when I would go to other like job interviews, which were financial and like trading ones, and my whole thing with the spin was that the experience I had just working in an investment bank environment made me realize the importance of a well-crafted architecture. And as somebody with 20 years IT experience, regardless of what that is, I think the spin should be that I'm the spin, whatever the unique value proposition should be that you have more experience than you know how architecture should be laid out. You know the importance of planning beforehand. You know the things that could go wrong, right? And in fact, you know it so much that you decided to get into software development because you didn't like the way people were doing it before. Say something like that. That'd be cool. Rodia says, "Hey Eric, Google has sent me a mail to verify my address in September, and I did not get the mail and asked for another PIN, but my ad stopped working. Do you think it's because I failed to enter the PIN?" I don't know. I've never had that. I've never had them. Probably. I mean, have you asked them for another PIN? Is there another? I've never had them ask me for a PIN. I'm not sure what that is, Rodian. Sorry about that. Lou Joseph. Hey Lou, how's it going? Hey Eric, happy Friday. Happy Friday. I'm learning Swift, but wonder if I should focus on Flutter instead. My goal is to make my own apps and publish on Android and iOS. Are there limitations to Flutter? there's some. Um, okay, so if you were going to do Swift, you like let's say you want to do Apple Watch, right? You could easily do that with Swift, obviously. Like you could, if you're going to do something that went outside the standard form, because Flutter, I mean, any of the frameworks, they're they're built on like it's the common like the lowest common denominator between both of them. So that's one of the drawbacks of Flutter. Another drawback of Flutter is that you have to rely on components that other people have written, but there's so many that are there. Like all the big ones are there, and I'm thinking like for me, I have trouble. And it was the same with Ionic, where I had trouble finding stuff that was barcode readers. I mean, barcode readers are everywhere, but there was like a specific one that needed a certain type of barcode that was like really hard to find, or doing high volume Bluetooth, like Internet of Things type things. But I was able to find it. So there's lots of stuff out there, but that's but that's kind of one of those things. However, by doing Flutter, you can easily go to iOS and Android just with one code base, right? It's just like we have a few Flutter projects. I'm working on a Flutter project right now. This is the one I told you I took over, so I'm doing that one, and it's I mean, because I mean, if you have since you've been learning Swift, you know how to package an ape or whatever, not an APK. What am I thinking? IPA. You know how to package an IPA and upload it to the App Store, or you might know how to. You know how to sign an application. You know how, which a lot of stuff you do anyway. And it's just yeah. I think it's worthwhile to learn Flutter. Okay, so let's talk about the downsides of Flutter. If you were going to do something like Apple Watch, the file size is going to be a lot larger because you have that whole framework sitting on top of it. So if you just went straight native Swift, you could definitely have smaller app sizes, which could be very important. But I find it to be less and less important as we go on, because phone sizes are getting bigger. Like this, like the lowest one at the moment is like 32 gigabytes. So I find it to be less important. Yeah. Anybody else? What else? Does anybody else have anything that would be like a negative for Flutter? I mean, I really like the hot reload. I do. There's there's one little pet peeve I have. Like sometimes I'll have stuff that works fine in development mode running on one of my phones here or on the emulator, but when I actually when I actually distribute it, like it'll just be like a blank screen to somebody, and or there'll be like something. So I have to make sure I watch the logs, because I can't just rely on the development builds. I have to actually like deploy the APK or build the APK, deploy it to one of my phones, and test it out that way before I distribute it. But let's see. The developers you are working with are not legally responsible for being able to deliver. They are, but you know what? It's like there comes a time where the buck stops here, right? I can't go to my client saying, well, it might take them another 3 years to figure out how to do this one simple thing, but they promised they would do it. No, it's at some point I have to say, look, and whether or not those developers have been paid, yeah, they have. Like so this project I took over, they said, oh, we were like 90% of the way done for like months, like 6 months, and it was just like God. And so I went in and took over the code and looked at it, and it was like, dude, loads of it was just wrong. Like it was the kind of stuff that would pass a test, like hard coded values in there, but were definitely not right. So when I'm testing it, it looks right because they're showing my details linked to the API, hard coded in it, stuff like that. Really, really dodgy stuff. And in the end, I had to take it over. And I'm not happy about that at all. I've lost thousands on this project. So yeah, it sucks. I'm not gonna even make it a thing. Theo Taylor said M1 Mac should be here in a week. Anything guys want me to try? Video editing is really what I'd like to know. That's the only thing that I find to be the slowest part of the things. Let's see, Fist007 says, a tool. Let's see the good old handy, just use that good old handy screwdriver. Is there a screwdriver in here? Let's see. 8848 app says, "Can you help me? Photoshop tutorial by 8848 apps." Okay, let's have a look. I assume we're talking about looking at the Play Store. I've only got one monitor at the moment, if you guys may have noticed. Let's see. All right. Let's close up my... All right, can you guys see my screen here okay? All right, so 8848 apps. So what was it? It was Photoshop tutorial. $8848 apps. What is the issue that you're having actually? So Photoshop tutorial. 529 reviews. Best app I've ever used for improving my PS skills. Thanks a lot. Great way to live Photoshop. Thanks. For beginners, easy to use. Are these okay? So let me have a look. You look like you have good reviews. Are these real reviews? They don't look like they're that fake. Yeah. Let me know what the 8848 apps. If you let me know what the actual issue is, so we have a look at that. Let's see. So with 20 years experience, sure, you've had a lot of experience, more than junior devs, but you can also cost a lot more than a bunch of junior ones. Yeah, I know, but he offers a lot more. I mean, going into a position where, where you could go into a position where you not only could take care of their infrastructure and take care of everything in their company and just sort of be that, the go-to guy for everything, but you could also be their developer. I mean, that seems like a good thing. Lionel, hello from Toronto. Hey, how's it going? Let's see. Chord Funk, we're up. What are we talking about? We're talking about anal fissures. We've gone way off topic today. I mean, it's weird. I'm glad you showed up, but we started talking about apps, and then we started talking about sexually transmitted diseases, and then anal fissures, and then I don't know. It just went off the rails. But thanks for joining. See, 20 years experience, almost all the pitfalls. That's right, because you've seen them all. That's right. New pitfalls made every day in JS. Let's see. The road to 20 years experience is paved with a corpse of junior devs. 20 plus years here also. I guess, hey, you know what? I have 20 years experience too. I started in 98, so I guess I have 22 years experience. I didn't even think of it. I thought, yeah, cool. Mohit Satori, hey, hello everybody. True. See, AWK fixes all grep problems. All right, okay, this is where you're calling me out on my lack of Bash script knowledge. So at one investment bank I was working at, I was working with this consultant. I was talking about him the other day on one of the videos, but he was working on this trading system that was used a lot of Bash script and Bash script, and he was like, what he did was looking really cool because I was doing Visual Basic, so I had all these Visual Basic COM components or COM plus components running on a Windows server on a scheduler. So I was doing all this kind of processing through Visual Basic, and he was just like opening up the terminal, and he was always like typing really quick. He says, "Oh, the cores become corrupted." He always says stuff that sounded like they were from Star Trek. The cores, grep this, grep that, cores become corrupted, whatever. And I thought, that sounds so cool, although, but I'm glad I don't have to do any of that stuff. IPA, yep, that's right. Thank you for this awesome live, says Abdisadic. Did I pronounce that right? I always want to know why I rank for a word that doesn't appear in my listing. Ooh, let's have a look. Could it be that is it possible? It could be a backlink. It could be that somebody's mentioned it in a review. Yeah, that would be interesting to see. So, because I did a video about this years ago, back before videos even existed. I did this video called, it was about the keywords that I was ranking. I had this spy app, and it was ranking for stuff like cheating boyfriend, cheating girlfriend. None of this stuff was in my description. It wasn't in anything I'd ever written about it. It wasn't in anything, but people were putting it in the description or in the reviews, and it was ranking for those, which was weird. Rodian says, I'm surprised to hear that they didn't verify your address. They may have done. We're talking about 2012. So it was a long time ago. Anyway, have you been asked to scan and submit your national ID card to Google to verify your identity? Thank you. I think it's been such a long time, but I think I did have to give my social security number and stuff like that. I may have had to. I honestly don't remember. Is that like a standard thing? Or maybe it's something new that's come about. Like, let's see. Leonel says Flutter, open issue backlog, backend integrations. Yeah, but sometimes those issues are like rare. I mean, that's true. I mean, it's good enough that a lot of people are using it. A lot of people really like it. I mean, it's funny when you run into something where you're like for me, I get these weird errors like you're using an expanded and a non-expandable parent, or parent is invalid or whatever, and that kind of stuff. So a lot of the stuff I'm using day to day at the moment is Xamarin, which is good. It's pretty. I mean, I enjoy doing it, but I'm still doing a lot of stuff in Flutter, yeah. So, but yes, there's a lot of stuff there. Negative with Flutter, because you are targeting two platforms, there's going to be trade-offs with both platforms, but it might be worth it. Says Cord Funk. Instant apps, for instance, can't do that. Oh yeah, can't do instant apps or all the new stuff that comes out. Negative for Flutter, says Fist007. Negative for Flutter or any other non-native framework. When the new feature get introduced to the hardware, you're relying on Flutter or any other framework to get it built and integrated. Yeah, that's true. Let's see. Van Helsing says, thanks, Eric. I'm a subscriber here in the Philippines, by the way. Oh, cool. That's why my team is working. I'm learning Flutter and wanted to start a business from it. Do you have any course or tutorials on how to start an app making business? No, I don't. A lot of stuff has been just learning as I go. I did look for that because even when like when I was like when I'm totally stressed out, I'm like, maybe somebody has something on this, and then you'd find a lot of people who they don't address everything. Like, how do you get clients? How do you get access to their, like, a lot of stuff just goes as we go. So for me, it's like it's finding the clients, being able to pitch them, and if you have like a lot of content out there and a really good portfolio, and you can start to build that up, which is kind of like a lot what this channel does and a lot of the social media stuff that we do. So a lot of times people will find us, and the SEO work and everything, so people find us, which is always way better than trying to go out and find somebody. Right? Because my whole thing is not to convince. My whole thing is to find somebody who wants to do an app and then build an app for them, and not find somebody and convince them they want to do an app, for example, right? And then when they come to you, then we have that conversation about what we could do. For me, I try to dazzle them with design work from our designer Sandy, so that this is what it could like for me, it's always that future pacing. Like, this is what your app could do. This is what it could look like. And when you start talking that way, then everybody gets involved, and then it gets exciting, right? It doesn't become, it becomes all right, so we could have whatever. This goes back to the architecture thing. Okay, so we would have like the application, we'd have it available on both iOS and Android. Since it's only going to be used within your company or whatever for your clients, then it will be invite only, which means they can't register within the app. They have to get an email from a central admin site. So we'll have this admin site sitting over here, and then we can have this. We could connect to this API and do that. We could use Bluetooth to scan these things. We could use NFC here. We could use whatever, and then you start to do that, and everyone gets really excited about it. And we hit them with like a really good icon. That's what our designer does. So we can say, okay, this is what it could look like, and then we try to sell them that way. And then it becomes the project side of things, getting everything done, getting the requirements drawn up, And it's always difficult when you're trying to draw up requirements before you give the quote, before you get any paid, because there's a lot of work that gets done for free. And there have been projects where I've just done weeks of work on the quote, and in the end it was just like, and they kept asking for changes to it. Go, actually, we've been thinking about it. You know how we said we wanted to do that? We want to do something else. Can you change the quote to do that? Right? It was like, and there was one quote where we did like 9 iterations of the quote, like, which means I had to do the wireframe, we had to do everything else, right? And then you start getting lazy on the quote, like on the requirement specification, right? Because when you do a fixed price, you have to give them a price up front. You can't say, all right, here's the price up front, but when we do the requirements gathering, if we find more, we're just going to have add a whole bunch more. No, that's a bit where you have to go in and do that stuff, which is just, it can be exhausting. And sometimes you're like, dude, I don't like, but and sometimes I will put off that initial payment because I want to find out whether or not there's somebody I want to work with, right? They'll be like, and sometimes it'd be like, if somebody changes their requirements 3 times before we even get started, then I think this isn't going to work, because once we do get started, those changes are going to keep coming and keep coming and keep coming. But so there's lots of things there. And then also, you never want to release their apps under your own accounts, right? Because Apple will start to give you, like, they'll start rejecting it. Android will start rejecting it. So you need to get them to do that, to set those up. Add you as a user onto their, sorry, just remember something I was supposed to do today. Add you on a user onto their App Store account or their developer account on Apple, and then also on the Google Play, so that you can upload to their thing and all this kind of stuff. There's so much that's involved. But yeah, maybe a course on that would be good, but I don't think any exists. And I think it'll probably be changing all the time. You can use FFT and call into the native platform. So not all functionality is out of reach. Morris says, I've done programming, databases, Linux, DevOps scripting. Some jobs require a degree. Would like to be self-employed, but if I don't get a degree or need a degree, since so many companies require it. Do they though? If you're self-employed, like for me, I don't think anybody's asked about my degree. And when I work, the most scrutiny I've had over my qualifications were at one investment bank. They put this like company that we're going through and checking my backgrounds, and it was weird because they're going, it says here you graduate. I was like, it says here you graduated in May 15th, 1998 from university, but we find that you've been graduated on the 19th of May. Which one is right? And you're like, I guess they're right. It's like, it was a long time ago, and I got really annoyed with it. But that was the only time where they did this due diligence and do the back. For the most part, if you know your stuff, you know your stuff, right? You go to that interview, you're confident, you've done it, you've done all this kind of stuff, you've done loads, DevOps, some programming, databases, scripting, right? All that kind of stuff, and you're like a good utility. In baseball, we call it the utility infielder, right? You're the guy who can play any position, right? If they need something how can we schedule this on a regular basis to go and do whatever? Okay, I've got some scripting knowledge. I could go through and write something that runs on a cron job or on Windows Task Scheduler, right? We need our databases running slowly. Okay, well, I've done a lot of work with databases. I could go work on that, right? Just knowing how everything works and going into an organization as somebody with that kind of experience, especially if they already have junior developers, you can help, raise the level of all that kind of stuff. Right, because any company, lots of companies out there would like to be one of the big boys, right? And they know that they just don't have that kind of knowledge and skill there. Morris, what I would do is I would look at, I would go on to JobServe, right? JobServe is the one I use in the UK. We looked at it a few weeks ago, and it was like, look at what's available and just start applying. Start applying now, right? The fact that you say that so many require a degree, start applying, right? Start applying and see who comes back, right? You've got 2 years. Spend the next month and go out and apply to do 10 CVs a day. Don't even if you spend more than 2 minutes on it, don't email something out like a CV out and then wait for it to come back. Do 10 or 20 each day, right? And then you'll get loads of calls from recruiters. I'll say, and if they ask you about the degree, then, you know, you'll know a month from now or whatever, a week from now, 2 weeks from now, you'll know whether or not that has any legs on it. But, you know, there's not, I think, you know, do it. Go out there. I mean, we've done this before. I'm going to do it again. Let's have a look at JobServe. Because a lot of times we talk about getting a job, and this is what I did. When I came to this country, just a poor immigrant, when I came to England, and I didn't have any skill. My skills were word perfect and cash handling experience. And I was in the Army. And I just finished my degree in U.S. history, which did me no good over here. So I started, I was able to get a job. And every time I would leave a job, I would go on JobServe and I would do whatever. So if I was going to do here, I would say Didcot, which is where I'm living right now. I would say, let's say Flutter. All right, I would say within 50 miles, I would check for a contract because I don't do permanent employment anymore. I would do a search and see if there's anything in the last in whatever 50 miles, and I can see there's nothing. There's nothing. So let me go back through and let me remove that. I suppose I don't have to be a contractor. Let's check for any. Refine. Okay, senior iOS developer, Oxfordshire, 60 plus 75, amazing benefits, blah, blah, blah. Required experience, commercial experience, developing iOS and Swift. You got experience, and you got, you know, let's be tricky here. You can apply for 8 years experience in commercial software development, willingness to hunger to tackle new environments. There's nothing here about a degree. Let's do Flutter's obviously not doing really well. Maybe I wonder if it's Christmas. Let's do React Native. Let's do React Native. Let's do React. This may not be the site that's in vogue anymore. I don't normally. Okay, so here we go. React technical lead, React engineer, senior London. React. Let's go back through and let's choose contract roles because that's kind of stuff that we want. You know, if you get to the point, Morris, where you're doing contracts where you like 6 months and that gives you 6 months of income, whatever. Node React developer. My client is currently looking for the development team, a JavaScript developer with 3+ years experience in React, blah, 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 AWS, expert experience. Expert is a very, loose term, right? There's going to be some people out there who call themselves an expert that you probably know more about than they do in terms of that. Advanced Node React, strong TypeScript, good AWS, Agile. So the next one, 200 to 300 pounds a day, full stack React. Now, all these things are going to have lots of people applying for them, but you don't know what their experience is like. And just having someone like you come in and they look over your CV and see, okay, you do have that development experience, but you also have all this other stuff that they haven't even thought about, right? I would do that. I would just totally go and just start applying to stuff. And I know I've said that to people and they're like, yeah, but they're looking for such and such and such. You are not a recruiter and you are not the person hiring for this job. You are the person applying for this job, and it's not your job to disqualify yourself. And that's the way that I always look at it. Dead on arrival. Projects unrecovered. You've run out of time managing idiots. Yep, that's right. Let's see. Cornfolk says, native is tedious either way. NDK stuff, for example. Oh, God. Yes, you're right, actually. Cornfolk says, it's not a Flutter problem. It's a low-level code problem. Let's see. Low-level code. Cornfolk says, when I hear native, I think NDK. When I hear native, I think Objective-C. And I know Swift is way better than Objective-C, but like there's certain parts that I don't like about iOS development, which is I don't like using storyboards. I've never quite got the hang of storyboards. And even, I've got the hang of the XML layouts in Java and the different types of layout styles, but when it comes to this, there's some things I don't like about that. Let's see. Morris said Flutter would be weak on processing real-time video. Interesting point. Would Flutter be able to spawn a different thread and run that as an outside thread? So, Fist up, I have 10 years effective experience. I like the way you, what does effective mean? Let's see. Bizwajit says, "Hey Eric, hey, how's it going, Bizwajit? How's the site? How's the site check ASO? Well, I haven't looked at it. Let's have a look. Is it your site? Check ASO. I've never actually used it. I got criticized by somebody saying that people are just asking me to look at their app so they get a bit of publicity, which I'm fine with, right? If I don't like it, I'll say I don't like it, which is, let's see, pricing, check ASO, product man. Use the power of ASO to increase organic installs. Your ASO index, relevant. I think this relies a lot on somebody knowing what ASO is. And if you know what ASO is, then you know what other tools are out there. Let's see. Growing business. One. See, this is one of, like, the pricing on all these applications seems to be very much the same. Seems to be very much the same. We got like 5 apps, 500 keywords, right? But like I had way more than 5 apps. So for me, it was like looking at higher prices. I suppose it's lower than, say, something like Sensor Tower. Oh, thanks everybody for the thumbs up, by the way. Appreciate it. Sensor Tower pricing. One of the things I didn't like about Sensor Tower in the old days was how expensive it was. Like, okay, here we go. So for small businesses, the pro account is $80. Where you get 5 apps tracked, 80 keywords, pretty much about the same. I know it's cheaper, but 500 keywords, 80 keywords, email alert, email support, keyword spy, 300 a month. But if we want to go to enterprise, then we're looking at, it's so expensive they don't even have prices. Now, and one of my big things about this is, let's see, resources, blog, help kit, ASO kit. Like I was using the tool they gave me a bunch of they gave me like an affiliate account so that I could like sell it to you guys and do a video about it. And my whole thing was I need like tutorials on how to use it, right? You need to show me how to use this thing because all of your online stuff, all of your videos are out of date. It was like an old version. Even their help text was out of date, right? And it was kind of thing, you know, they're making these promises that, oh, all you need is the right keywords, but if they, you know, they don't tell you where you put those keywords, like how to do all that kind of stuff, and that's the kind of stuff that's important to know. But I don't know. Do you like it? Yeah, I just dropped something. Let's see. Let's see. Let's see. I corrupt my core code base every day. Oh yeah, me too. That's why Git is important. You know, I like when I'm coding, I like to test how far back that Control Z actually goes. Like, oh crap! No, I didn't want to do that. Control Z, Control Z. Why didn't I check it in before I started doing this? The degree of abstraction is a benefit. Fistolo 7, in my honest opinion. Smash that like button. Thank you very much. MK Multi says, or sorry, JK Multi says, I think Flutter has limitations. Standalone Swift and Android are more powerful. That's true. I mean, it's a trade-off. It's a trade-off for doing, you know, both of them. And I know people who are like, I only do native, and I could do. I've spoken to people who are like, I could do native in both platforms, right? It's not that hard to learn, right? I do both. I do native Android and I do native iOS. I don't know what you guys are all complaining about. The same, and I think about them the same way I think about people who say like, I go to the gym for 3 hours a day. I don't know why you guys can't do it. All right, like, dude, I know. Oh, I suppose. Am I just being lazy that I don't want to learn both native frameworks? I don't know. I really like working with something that's a bit more abstract. Well, there's always some sacrifice. You just get to choose your sacrifice. True. More says, I would use native code if the app itself is the product, and use Flutter if the app is just an interface to backend service, except for games, which you generally use Unity C#. I don't know. I really. So one of the nice things. So if the app itself is the product, yeah, maybe. I guess. I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that, Morris. I think it's using something like Flutter or one of the other platforms. I'm trying to think how often it would be. Like for me, I always thought it'd be cool to do an app like with EarSpy. I thought it'd be good to have an Android Watch interface to it. That was one of the things. So I bought an Android Watch and it sucked. Like the battery life was like 12 hours on it, which was like stupid for a watch. And I mean it was back when they first came out, and I never actually got around to doing it. But like it's one of the things that I think would be nice to do. And with instant apps, it would be good to do something like that kind of stuff too. I think with Xamarin, a lot of that stuff is available still, like with Xamarin, because they're more closely tied with the native frameworks themselves. But if you go with Xamarin Forms, which is cross-platform, then yeah, you have to cater for both. Lino Fonseca says PWA has limited use cases, ideal for specific scenarios. Yeah, we talk a lot about PWAs. So here's one of the things about PWAs. I have never been to an establishment who said download our app and then it was a link to a PWA site, right? I've never, like in the wild, come across a PWA scenario where like a business or a developer was saying, "Hey, download my app. It's a PWA. It's a PWA, right?" I've never had that, right? It's just, and the thing I worry about it, even when I talk to clients, is I think, is it going to be something where they tell their client, so if I do one for a client and they do it for their employees or their customers or whatever, and they say, "Hey, download our app," and then they have to go to a link, is it possible they'll get confused by that, like because they're used to going to the app stores? Let's see. Framework twisting root. Yo, Eric. Yo, Cord Funk. Yo, Eric. How do you deal with fuzzy requirements? I think fuzzy requirements is probably one of the most difficult things because that's where scope creep, you could say, "Oh, that wasn't specified." It's like, "Oh yeah, but we talked about it in a meeting or whatever." And when you get lazy with the requirements, then yeah, sometimes you're like, "Okay, yeah, let's do that." But there comes a time we have to say, "Look, we just don't have. There's just no budget for that, right? There's just no budget for that." And if you're doing fixed price, sometimes you're like your clients won't realize that there's a budget involved, right? You're like, so I never just give a price. I always give a price and a number of man days. And there have been times where I've had like a very low number of man days, and it took a lot longer, and I just had to swallow that cost. But at least I could go into say something like, we quoted for 35 days or something like it. We quoted for like whatever. This was a 40-day project, and now here we are on day 60. And you can't, these kind of things never came up in the initial conversations. So it's important. So on our quote template, we had to go in and start saying at the bottom, just say, "Look, if your requirement is not in this quote, please bring it up now," because I always have this thing. It's just well, we talked about that on our first meeting. And like a lot of times we talk about loads of stuff on our first. Do you think it could be like, do you think it have a game in it? I suppose it could have a game in it. Like that's what, so we're just throwing out ideas. Could it have like a QR code thing? It could, but like what is, so when we do the quote, like, and that kind of stuff is just like, where we're just like having a conversation. In my mind, we're just like throwing out ideas, and then they come back to us. What about that QR code? So, well, that wasn't in the spec. That wasn't in the quote. It wasn't in anything like that. No, but we talked about that like on the first meeting. Do you remember? Like, it's like that was not a requirement. So you have to be very clear about the fact that is not a requirement. Like what, if in the quote, if you don't have it. Sour May, hey Sour May, says, "I had to wait 3 days to get my company app dev account approved by Apple this week. Is that normal?" Yeah, sometimes it takes a while. I've had clients that have waited weeks, but normally it's because they, nobody wants to take ownership of whose email address is going to be the primary account holder. But no, that doesn't sound too bad, Sour May. Fuzzy requirements require fuzzy quotations, and fuzzy quotations lead to scope creep. Good answer. let's see. Fist007 says a Swiss knife. What are you talking about? Are we like not doing anything? Is it? Oh, is it this? This is a glasses case. Is that what we're looking at? I wonder what you guys are looking at over here. Like, because I was in such a rush to set everything, I didn't even look at all the stuff. So, let's see. Leonel says, fuzzy requirements tricky. You need to put something that works in front of the customer. Most customers don't know what they want until they see it. That's true. So if I want to show you one of my quotes, but no, I don't want. Yeah, because a lot of it's under NDA. But yeah, Swiss Army knife. Let's see. Or just hire one of those cool UI mock-up people, have them waste their time with requirements churn. So, okay, yeah, that, I've had that. So I've had Sandy, my designer, 'cause she's working full time. So we did have, like, I have had that where I was just like, okay, you go off with the client and then you find out what they want. And it's just, and I thought she was going to quit. Like, we had one client where I thought she was going to quit. And it was like, okay, all right. This isn't working, right? Because she was like, I can't lose my best designer. I can't, because she was like, how about this? How about this? And it was like, something that looks a little bit more, I don't know, playful? Well, maybe a little bit more professional. Okay, professional, but playful at the same time. So can you do that? And it's like, like that's the kind of stuff, which I was like, I don't want to deal with any of that stuff. Sandy, you work with them, and then it was like, and she was like, it didn't go well. Just how I want to see. Record Focus says, just tried showing a storyboard to a girl on time. She said she didn't have. She said she didn't have against her. It was wrong. Fist007 says effective equals professionally paid. I have more than 10 years of experience coding. Okay, but that's cool. Cool. But not my website. Okay, cool. I don't know. I haven't had a look at. I haven't heard anything about this ASO checker. Check ASO website. Plus, draw a line in the sand for requirements. Present them with the same time with the Delta invoice for any scope creep version and phase out as needed. Yeah, it's I mean, there's been a lot of times. There might be somebody watching now who's come to us for a quote, and then they waited a long time because it was like, it's time consuming doing a quote, especially when somebody just throws off a hat. Eric, how much would it cost to do an app like a game? Right. Well, what kind of game? Like a mobile game. Yes, I know a mobile game, but like, should it be multiplayer? Yeah, let's say yes. Give me a quote with multiplayer and not multiplayer. Is it like a quiz game? Could you give me a quote with like as a quiz game and not a quiz game? How many levels does it have? Can you give me like a quote per level? Like, dude, like, no, I need to know more than this, right? And all of this is time consuming. All of this requires mental effort to go through and do that kind of stuff. And that's the kind of stuff that you deal with. So, I'm sure you get that done in 3 months as well. It's not as difficult. Take their plunge. You go. You got this. Colt Eves. Hey, Colt, how's it going? Eric, I'm in a predicament. Oh, shit. I don't think I swear on this channel. Every time I wonder whether or not I should swear on this channel. But, Eric, I'm in a predicament. Damn. I have a current offer and an interview where it is a senior role. I interviewed and hear back today in a few hours. First senior title, and man, I am nervous. Advice? Dude, if you're just waiting, there's just, go for a run or something, watch a movie. But yeah, first senior title. Yeah, you know what? Okay, I'll tell you what, Cole. I've never had a senior title, like in an actual company. Even like, the most senior title I've ever had was sergeant in the Army, right? Because when I was working a permanent job, I didn't really have a job title, and I became a contractor. A lot of times people try to give me a job title, but I didn't want one. Like, I wasn't really like, I don't have underlings. I had there was one job where I had a team in India that I was working with, so I guess I kind of had a little bit of seniority there, but like it wasn't like I wasn't interested in having the title, right? So Cole, you know what? I don't think you should worry about the title because, like, okay, if you ever watched The West Wing, I always think about The West Wing when I think about stuff. It's like The West Wing. You have the president, Bartlett, and you had Josh, the deputy chief of staff, and everything. And then you had the chief of staff, Leo, which is Leo McGarry, and he was like. His whole thing was, call me Leo. His job was just to make sure everything runs on time, right? He didn't have the pretense. He was like the most senior person in the West Wing, aside from the president. And he had no, like, he didn't have those airs of, superiority or anything like that. He just was there to make sure everything runs on time. And I think if I ever did have a senior role, then, that's the way I would want to be, right? And I've been very adamant about the fact that I don't want to have a job title, and I don't have a job title. I used to say, on my email description or my email signature, say whatever, Eric E. Wroolie, president, not president, whatever, director of Overpass, or director and founder of Overpass, director, founder, and idea, whatever, main developer, whatever. And in the end, it was like, dude, I don't care, right? It's just I'm Eric. I make apps, right? Because it's ultimately, Cole, it'll be what you do that matters the most, I think. And but yeah, but you also want to make a good impression, I guess. I think about when I was in the Army, and like I said, I was a sergeant. I had I had a team of 5 people, I think, at one point. And it was like we were linguists. It wasn't like anything. We weren't walking through the bush with anything like that. We were linguists. But my whole thing was I was there to serve them, right? And when you talk to the people who are really good, like the commanders and the staff sergeants and the first sergeants that you really admired, they're the ones that they were there to make sure that everything runs on time and not to be the boss. They were there. They were the boss, right? You had to respect them. If you didn't respect them, they would say something, right? You still had to. You still require that level of respect, but you still have to require that level of respect, right? You have to make sure that you get treated with respect, but at the same time, I don't know. Let's see. Of course, if the pricing page includes contact sales, I'm out, dude. I'm the same. Max SSH, ooh, nice, says, hey, I really like your videos. Keep it up. Thanks, Max SSH. Appreciate it. Thanks. Morris says, I need a degree if I will be employed by other people, but would not need one for freelancing. That is being hired by other people. If I freelance, I would be web or mobile. I am currently weak on both. Mobile has great appeal to me. I prefer mobile, obviously, right? I've done some web. I've done a lot of web throughout my career. And if I never have to check all the different browsers for compatibility, it'll be too soon. Control Z, same. I break it more than I fix it. Fistleman said, with Xamarin, you have a Java binding and a Swift binding under the hood that allow you to talk to native libraries directly, but it is still a binding. Or say, I don't agree with the premise. The interface is a product in most cases. Wasn't it Grady Booch who said the interface is the system? Yeah, you know what? It's weird. I think I'm probably more of a GUI guy. I'm probably more of an interface guy than anything else. So I had one of my clients say to me, oh, Eric, this looks really good. We'll get a designer to make it look really good, though. It's like, ugh, dude, I put my all into this, right? But I'm not a designer. I know the basics of good design, and oh, let's put a gradient here. Let's put a drop shadow here, whatever. Oh, that looks cool, right? But it's designers are designers. They're totally on that side. Right, but I do appreciate the elegance of a back-end system, right? And when you talk to people who are back-end system people, and they're passionate about the way something's structured and the fallback systems and all this kind of stuff, it's really cool, right? It's one of the apps that I'm working on at the moment, like I'm working on the front end app, which everybody uses. And there's like a team of guys working on the back end system, which has all the power, right? It's just like I'm dealing with an API. Like I get the trickle of data for each user so they can see it represented. And there's all this processing going in the back end. And it's like these guys are like really, really smart in that way. But customers don't interact with raw APIs. No, they don't. But it's true. Let's see. Colt says, how quickly can you pick up a new framework like Flutter and make an app? You mentioned using Corona Cordova. How long do you think it would take you to do earspy in it if you aren't familiar with it? It's usually, a lot of the concepts are still kind of the same. And you look, but I mean, Corona / Cordova. I say Corona. So I did try to do earspy in Corona. And it was when Corona Native came out. Well, it was, Corona Native. So a lot of it was going into the, like, taking the Java and building a component out so that the interface would talk directly to the back end and run because it was multi-thread and everything like that. So I was able to lift that out and do that, and it did look really cool. I never released it. The APK size went from like I think it was like 8 megabytes to like 40 megabytes or something like that. So I never really went with it. But a lot of the concepts are going to be very similar, right? You got your entry point, like where does the application start? Sometimes it starts with the main class. Sometimes it starts with, on create in app delegate. Sometimes it starts with whatever, from there, where does it go? Like, how do you, for me, it's always like, how do I navigate from page to page? How do I do a menu? How do I, a button click, all that kind of stuff. But a lot of the stuff is still very much the same. When I go from Flutter to Xamarin, for example, when I go to C# to Flutter, one of my big things is like little things like I got to capitalize string in Flutter, but when I instantiate a string variable, it's capital S in Flutter and in Java, but it's lowercase in C#. There's little stuff like that, but you don't have so much trouble with it. I had more trouble going from Visual Basic to C# / JavaScript than I did from going from C# or JavaScript, C#, Java, Flutter. Like a lot of them, they're more syntactically similar to each other. Carol VDW, hey, how's it going? Let's see. For the Swiss Army knife, when you were talking about the plethora of skills one might have when applying for a job. Oh, yeah, Swiss Army knife. How far back are we on these comments? Sorry about that. Let's see. The moon is out. Java. The moon is out. Okay, now I have to think whether or not you saw my crack or something. Kotlin or Java? Jeez, let's see. This week I'm gonna say Java. No, it depends. If you're doing a Android application, probably Kotlin. If you're doing a web application, neither. Oh, I guess do Java server pages, I guess. Fist7 says, when quotes are required to be by the prospect, I think they should pay for them and they're able to create them properly. I know, that's something I've talked about that before and never actually did it. Or don't give me a job title, give me more money. Exactly. And this is one of the things I liked about being a contractor. And I love being like when I was, and I'm doing a contract now, but like why I would never be a permanent employee again. Because they'll give you benefits. We got medical. And in England, I think it's different because we have the NHS. So like in the States, I think medical is probably more important. But like you'll say, okay, well, you'll have these benefits and all this kind of stuff. And you'll have the job security. And I was like, I don't believe in jobs. Like job security I don't believe in it. Like I just think that I've seen too many people lose their jobs. That is one of those things where I'm very cynical about that. Stuff like that. So, but I agree. Sour May says, I want to delete limited at the end of my company's account name. Is it possible instead of the company's name limited, just company name? Yeah, I've done that. Just email. You have to email them. You can't do it yourself. I did that because mine was called Overpass Limited, all lowercase, and I wanted to change it to Overpass Apps, right? So I emailed them and just asked through support. I can't remember where I did, but it was something that they did for me. Coding Limited United says I would talk to a lawyer. I don't think. Yeah. Bacon Overflow. Oh, I love that name. Speaking of job titles, I find it fascinating that all senior engineers at JP Morgan are vice president of engineering. I should be vice president. I want to be vice president of this live stream for this time. I mean, I should be president of the live stream, but I know I'm like Colt. I'm afraid of the top job title. So, Richard Lyon says, have you ever experienced using CallKit within iOS? I have a problem with the call blocking and identification enabling and wondered if you could help offline. Richard, I wish I did. I've never used CallKit. I've used the dialer, which is like, but no, I've never used CallKit, I'm afraid. Official said, when I build any software, I design the business layer so it can be called from a console front end. Cannot go wrong with that in mind. Yeah, I mean, how many of you guys are out there using Postman? Like Postman is like that one thing which I used to use Fiddler. Well, it's different. So I used to use Fiddler. Now I use Charles for like HTTP sniffing, which is useful. But like just being able to use Postman to check to see the API and when things are working, right? It seems like every single time I make an API call in my code, I'm writing to the console to say what that API actually is and the things. So I would say, why is that not working right? Whatever I'm getting back is wrong, right? I'm going to paste that into Postman and find out what's coming back and find out what's wrong with that. But Lionel says, good interface implementation is a design. Is anybody still here? Hey, if anybody's still here, I don't know what happened to the live stream. We'll try it again next week. I hope everybody has a great weekend, and I'll talk to you guys again next week. Thanks for joining.